now joined by Guardian columnist Owen Jones,
Hello.
Who's all fired up for our explosive new segment, the Midday Moan. He'll have just 1 minute to rant about an issue that's got him all fired up. Now, Owen, I know you're normally the shy and retiring
Very much
type,
so,
but
yeah.
Promises you won't hold back today?
I normally keep my opinions close to my chest, as you know, but today, just for you, I'm going to inject a little bit of passion.
Thanks, Owen. Thank you. OK, we'll find out what's riled Owen up in just a second. But don't forget, we want to hear from you too. You're going to be able to challenge Owen on what he said, maybe give him your backing the minute the rant is over. So here's the number, 0207 862 2222. Get ready to dial that now. OK, Owen, here are the rules. You'll have a maximum of 1 minute to moan. You cannot deviate from the topic, and you will have to end on a statement that our panel can react to. Are you ready?
Let's do this, Storm. Come on.
3, 2, 1, moan.
Politicians like Michael Gove, Boris Johnson have admitted to taking drugs. Keir Starmer refuses to deny it. Cocaine has been found lining the toilets of the House of Commons, but it's disproportionately young black men who get locked up. It's 50 years since the war on drugs was launched, and in that time, drug use and drug deaths have spiralled. We've handed criminal gangs a massive source of revenue, fueling mass violence from Mexico to the Philippines. But look at Portugal. They decriminalise drugs. If you're found with a certain amount below, then you have to go to a health clinic to be checked for addiction.
Halfway.
If for above, then you're treated as a drug dealer and you are prosecuted. It's not legalised, it's treated as a health issue. We need to treat addiction as a health issue. We need to give resources
20.
to support people. Also, we can purify drugs. What makes drugs so dangerous is the fact nasty stuff is put in them. Alcohol, that's a big killer, but it's regulated and we can support people. We need to end the war on drugs, decriminalise drugs,
5,
and
4,
stop the hypocrisy,
3, 2,
end the war on drugs.
1. There we go. I like how you tried to talk to time there. You were going to come out early, but you didn't. I appreciate that. Right, OK, you've heard from Owen. He thinks that drug taking should be decriminalised. It's an issue that's divided the entire country, with Westminster and the Scottish Government at loggerheads. Even Labour aren't thinking about changing the laws. So do you agree with Owen? Are you desperate to tell him perhaps that he is wrong? Whatever it is, 0207 862 2222 is the number. Emily, what do you think of what you've just heard from Owen?
Well, that was very impressive. I've got to say. Where's your statement at the end for us to talk to?
I was like, what is my...
Yeah. What's your statement? No, but I do. I'm sorry, Owen. I really disagree with you. I think this is a very North London, liberal, intelligentsia, middle class dinner table, let's all take cocaine kind of argument. And hopefully that's not any of us three, obviously. I just think it's really, this drugs are really serious. It's a really serious problem up and down the country. You decriminalise it, it means the police won't be interested in arresting people who sell drugs, who organise the drug taking. I've been in...
That's not what decriminalisation is. That's literally the opposite.
Yeah, I'm just told you in Portugal, if you're found with a certain amount above, you're treated as a drug dealer. So
but in Portugal, actually, drug use has risen by 4.2% since 2001. So decriminalisation in Portugal hasn't worked. No. Usage has gone up by 4.2%.
Drug debts have plummeted in Portugal.
Usage. No one's talking usage. You're saying debts. I'm saying usage has gone up.
I care about people's lives. Portugal has below average drug use compared to the rest of Europe.
So what? Yeah, but usage has gone up. The whole point is decriminalisation in 2001.
If usage has gone up...
I want people's deaths to go down. There's been
so it's OK for people to use more drugs as long as they don't die?
Yes. Can I ask you a direct question?
Go.
If you had the choice between drug use going up but drug deaths going down, or drug use going down slightly but drug deaths going up, what would you choose?
I would choose neither. Well, of course, you want drug use...
I'm going to interrupt you just because I know, Emily, you have actually visited what you would be deemed as a crack den.
Yeah, so when I was as a junior reporter back in the days, I got sent to a job in Gloucester. Now, everyone thinks that, think the Cotswolds, lovely part of the country, but actually I went to this house. I didn't realise it was a crack den. I went in. They're very kind. I can't even remember what the story was now. It was nothing to do with drugs. It was very apparent that this young couple with a baby, there was a needle on the sofa. There was nothing in the house. It was so sad. And I just think I think you and I actually agree on this, Owen. More people need to get more help. Yeah, but if you decriminalise it, it makes it less of an issue. Society just kind of ignores it because then people don't get annoyed about it.
But what you're saying there is those people should be sent to prison.
No, I'm not saying
that's what criminalisation...
But then in prison, maybe they get the help that they need. In prison, maybe they get the help.
In prison, lots of people go to prison and they end up addicted to drugs. Addiction is caused by underlying trauma. I know lots of people who've had their lives blighted by addiction. I know how serious it is. And the problem is we don't have the resources to deal with it, and people don't come forward to seek help because they fear being criminalised. If we treat it as a health issue, which is what it is...
If they don't come forward to seek help, then maybe the state has to intervene and give them help.
No, but at the moment, they're treating...
And you need a penal system in place to have drugs still...
But at the moment,
the
default is you treat them as a criminal. And the reality is the vast majority of people who take drugs, and millions of people, we're talking about a third of the population have taken drugs. So we could say
actually 10% of the population.
Well, over time, I'm not saying
10% of the population aged 18 to 55 have taken a drug in the UK. 10%.
That's who've admitted it, by the way.
Well, aren't we going on facts here?
Millions of people.
Are we going on facts here?
I think we agree that millions of people have taken drugs. The vast majority don't become addicted. That's just the truth. If you take ecstasy, for example, Professor David Norcott used to work for the Labour government. He was fired because he said a basic statistical fact. You are more likely to die...
a statistic like 10%?
Listen. You are more likely to die riding a horse than you are from taking ecstasy. Now, are we going to ban horse riding? People get their kicks and their thrills from horse riding, but it can be dangerous. Ecstasy is something we can regulate because often what's dangerous about ecstasy is the stuff they put in it. If it's regulated, you take that stuff out and you can support people.
OK, Owen, but that's going slightly further, isn't it? That's not just decriminalising drug taking, that is decriminalising...
I think, you know what, Storm, I find it embarrassing at this point in time. It's 2023 and that discussion was being had in the late 90s. Then, of course, the Labour government at the time cracked down on David Nutt. We're not even close to having a discussion about even decriminalising cannabis, which actually is a fairly common position among the British public. In fact, I think that there's often a majority polling for it. And the reason being is that, well, if you thought it would have happened under the Tories, because they seem to be admitting drug use left, right and centre. But then we've got Starmer, who just wants to seem like this sort of tough guy, kind of small C.
He won't admit.
Well, he's
a lawyer.
So he joked about how he had a fun time growing up in response. And I'm sorry, I'm sick to death.
It's hypocritical, is the main thing.
Of middle-class politicians who've many of them taken drugs, and in the media, you get these Daily Mail and Sun journalists, I'd like to know their history, who destroy the lives of disproportionately poorer people who get locked up and criminalised for doing the exact same thing as them. It's a hypocrisy. It is a war on drugs that has failed. You talked about drug use in Portugal going up slightly compared to 2000. Since the war on drugs was declared in 1971 by Richard Nixon, drug use has increased exponentially, as have drug deaths, as have, in the last 20 years across the world, drug use has massively gone up.
OK, I want to jump in here and take some calls, but I'm glad you corrected yourself, Owen, there. You nearly said all politicians have taken drugs, and then you said many, which I think is
they have, though.
A much more legally safe comment. Stuart from Hertfordshire, what's your views on this? Do you think we need to decriminalise drug taking?
Yes, I agree with Owen. I think that especially politicians, if they're not leading the right example, then, what hope is there for the rest of us, really?
OK, I feel like politicians are getting a hard time here. We can't say that all politicians are doing naughty things behind closed doors. That's just not the case.
The cocaine in the House of Commons where a toilet speaks for itself, doesn't it?
OK.
There's to be a higher proportion of politicians than the general public.
Well, we don't know that, Stuart. Can we get away from the politicians, please? I'm really annoyed at myself
also,
for having
there are more people that work in the House of Commons than just MPs. There are a lot of people that work.
They're advisors.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stuart, you're in
and the civil servants.
They're all
Thank you very much.
Hold on. Can I just get a
Sorry, Stuart.
point over?
Carry on.
Well, I think that people that are caught in possession of drugs, the amount is key. I think if it's for personal use or if they're under the influence, as long as they're not driving, obviously. But if they've got enough with them to represent that of a dealer or selling drugs, then, I think prosecutions are probably in order. But as regards personal use, no, I don't think. I mean, nicotine.
So, Stuart, what should be done? You catch somebody with a personal usage of, let's say, cocaine on them. What happens to that individual? Are they just allowed to go off and party the night away, or what happens?
But why would you...
That's not what happens.
I mean, look at the mess that we're in with vapes.
Just quickly on that, in Portugal, if you're found, for example, with 1 gram of cocaine on you, you have to, by law, go to a health clinic. Instead of a police station. And I would ask you, Emily, would you not, be honest, would you prefer someone found with 1 gram of coke to go to a health clinic to be assessed to see if they've got addiction, and if they're found to have addiction, to go through a treatment programme, which they then have to do, or to go to a police station and possibly go to jail? What would you prefer to
I
happen?
think every sane person would prefer someone to get help. But what I
That's what happens in Portugal, criminal
but
decriminalisation.
I think it is quite... Well, no, but drug use has gone up by 4%.
Yeah, but
Drug
what's
use
gone
has
down?
up.
What's gone down? What's gone down?
Deaths
Drug
have gone down.
overdoses and drug deaths.
But it is utopian to suggest that we decriminalise drugs and suddenly we're going to be able to stop people taking drugs. We're not. There has to be some...
I don't necessarily want people...
You don't want people to stop taking drugs. Are you saying you don't want people to stop taking drugs?
I want people to be safe.
You want people to be safe?
Alcohol is
I
more
want to
deadly
go back
than
to the calls.
MDMA.
Okay.
So why am I being so arbitrary about it? Do you want people to stop drinking alcohol?
That's not what we're just talking about.
Why? It kills thousands of people every year. Thousands.
I like your deviation, but...
No,
I'm
it's
going
important.
to stop this debate and just go to calls again. Thank you. You've had your time, Owen. Pete from Nottinghamshire, what's your thoughts on this?
Completely agree with Owen, as per usual.
Bless you.
I would go further. I would completely legalise it. Then they could tax it, look after the quality of it, and money could go towards NHS, etc.
Pete, I hear you, but wouldn't that mean drug use went up?
It's a possibility, but at least it would be quality tested and it wouldn't be leading so much overdose.
I'll tell you what else would go up, police actually attending crimes. We talked earlier in the show about shoplifting, about wanting the police to do more active policing, stop them dealing with low-level possession, get them dealing with the crimes that we all want detected and resolved.
And a lot of crimes are happening because of a drug industry that's illegal.
Yeah, we're giving
Pete,
criminal gangs a massive source of revenue.
Thank you for your call. You're getting lots of support here online, Owen. Leslie from Durham, are you in support of Owen's rant? Can we call it a rant?
It is a rant.
Leslie, what do you think of this? Oh, no, we've lost Leslie.
She's so unimpressed. She's gone. She's like, no.
Or maybe she's just having a great time.
Well, I was trying to think of a way of wording it.
Sorry, Geoff, we haven't heard much from you in this debate, so I'm going to turn to you now. He's giggling away like school children in the corner now.
Yeah.
So if we decriminalise drug taking, the reality is that drug use may go up. Certainly the stigma towards drug use might soften. Is that really the society we want to live in?
I only care about harm. So, as Owen says, in the form of deaths and addiction, drug use might go up, drug harm might go down, associated crimes might go down. I think, obviously, it's something that you would want to monitor as well. It might be that Britain has a slightly different culture to other countries. I do wonder about, this country. In Portugal, it might be that it's right for them to decriminalise cocaine. There's a slightly different culture in this country where I wonder. But I do absolutely think that we should legalise and monetise cannabis.
Well, OK, so you brought up cannabis, but the psychotic
every drug has harm. It's about mitigation. It's about whether you can tax, whether you can put money back into how you care for those people that find themselves at the addicted end of things.
Caffeine isn't likely to give you the psychosis that cannabis.
Caffeine is
give you
going to
palpitations.
attack me. Well, it might.
Alcohol is far worse.
Can we just
than
go back
cannabis.
to can we go back to Storm's point actually about children? Because if you decriminalise drugs, Owen, okay, and I'm a governor at a primary school, and which drugs aren't an issue at primary apart from with parents taking them, obviously, but and systemic. Some parents systemic use with young kids,
often because of
trauma.
trauma.
At secondary school, how can you try and educate kids not to take drugs if they're freely available, they're decriminalised?
But I think we
don't want to encourage more people to take drugs.
We're cross purposes because what we're concerned about is harm rather than drug usage. It's the same with alcohol. I know you regard it as distraction. It isn't. We allow alcohol even though it is objectively more dangerous than many criminalised drugs. What we want to do is educate people about it. Now, people do become addicted to alcohol. Most people don't. The people who do become addicted is overwhelming because of underlying trauma that needs to be dealt with, and we don't deal with it properly.
The difference to alcohol is that you can drink a whole bottle of wine and you'll probably feel really quite rubbish the next day. You can take one pill of ecstasy. Leah Betts, I grew up being
why not talk about people falling off horses and dying?
But you wear a back brace. I ride. You wear a back brace.
But
you wear a back brace. I'm sorry.
The death rate from ecstasy is absolutely.
Yeah, but you take one pill of ecstasy and you could die.
Can we agree that
I'm going to have to wrap it up.
You shouldn't take ecstasy and ride a horse?
OK, and on that note.